It's time for the Big Three. We've got 3 stocks, 3 charts for you. Kevin Green joining us this morning to take us through the charts. And here to take us through the trades is Tim Bohen, Chief Technical Trainer at StocksToTrade.com. Great to have you both here. Tim, would love to close out the week with a big picture thought on the market. We've got several Mag 7 names, some other big bellwether companies reported this week. We've got a new name for Fed chair. A lot has happened. We got a Fed decision, or lack of decision, I guess we should call it.
Yeah, so really, kind of encouraging to finally get the whole Fed thing out of the way. I'm a big believer that a lot of the uncertainty, there's that quote, markets hate uncertainty, and this whole little feud between Powell and Trump, at least it's done. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see if it's the right decision, if it's the right person, but that uncertainty is behind us and we can kind of move on from that. Speaking of earnings, was very encouraging to see a lot of these big winners this week. Microsoft kind of fumbled the football, as they say, but sets up an idea that I'm going to share later on Google. And then one of the most exciting things that I really kind of ran into as soon as I got off of Trading 360 was the emergence of these AI agents, particularly Claude Bot. It's been renamed Molt Bot. It's got renamed again. But it really kind of goes into another idea I have with you about compute hardware. I mean, like basically you've got enterprise, you've got commercial, and now you've got consumers just buying up every bit of hardware that they can get their hands on to run these local agents and cloud agents and really take advantage of AI and kind of set up another one of the ideas. So one of the things that's most exciting is I look at, I've talked about the golden age of America, the second golden age many times, but we're setting up right now with all of these AI agents. I mean, it really reminds me of like a combination of the Renaissance and the printing press, bringing the democratization of education and tools to everyday people, and then the Industrial Revolution to be able to create these goods. It's like a combination because you look at Claude Code and Vibe coding. I built 4 projects last week in about 15 minutes apiece that I didn't have to go to my development team to build. It's just an amazing time. Now, for those of you that don't want to have your local compute and run all of these agents, what's exciting is these themes are going to create so many trading opportunities, which at the end of the day is what your audience cares about.
Certainly. And one opportunity that if you got into this name at any point since February, you're doing well. SanDisk, of course, we're talking about up more than 12% right now. Your first pick in the Big Three. One of the top performers today, blowout earnings. Walk us through this one, Tim.
So kind of going back to what I said, that idea behind compute being, like I said, whether that be desktop compute, enterprise compute, or, servers, et cetera. Listen, memory, the flat out, the explosion of AI, the explosion of content creation every day, that data needs to be stored somewhere. This is very similar to the Micron idea I shared back a few months ago or a few weeks ago. Same idea. You can't expand and create more content, create more agents, create more data without some place to put it. And obviously that's SanDisk business. And then you look at that chart, it's kind of like a no-brainer type idea. Now, I know it's parabolic, huge move, but I just don't see this story changing anytime this year. So even though this stock's in rare air, I think you look back in a few months, end of the year, and be like, it wasn't up too much back in January.
All right, so KG, as we take a look at SanDisk and this, year to date up 157+%, take us through the chart here, because this chart is not going to look like many others that we feature.
Yeah, obviously it's making higher highs as well as higher lows. So the chart's obviously bullish. We've been talking about it pretty much on a day-by-day basis. If you look back at the 1-year time frame, obviously, if you look to the left-hand side, that price action is going to be very, squished here because of this parabolic move to the upside here. But we obviously are seeing a breakout, and we have been in a breakout here. And we do have a primary trend line that actually has been broken because of these earnings here, this kind of rising wedge pattern that has now officially broken out. And what you're kind of looking at is today's candle. Obviously, we're still up about 11%, but we are off of the highs here. And this could actually result in potentially a island reversal candle, and it's actually kind of what it's setting up to be.
And Tim, I think we may have lost Kevin there. We'll try to get his feed.
Okay, I thought maybe that was me.
I did too. I adjusted my earpiece just to make sure. But, certainly with SanDisk, I'm not sure about you, but when I was covering these numbers live on air yesterday, I was just talking to Alex Coffey about this. I was refreshing the wire feed, and then I went into the report itself when I saw their EPS number come across, and I thought, that has to be a typo. That can't be next quarter. It didn't quite track for fiscal year, but I thought someone's messed something up here. I mean, what were your thoughts when you saw those numbers come across?
Well, very similar to you. I expected good. I didn't expect that good. But, kind of going back to what I said, and this is where people, I've spoke on Schwab about, it's still funny. I remember 2 months ago, everyone was calling AI a bubble, except for me. I was like, this ain't no bubble. But, it kind of just, when people compare it to like the dot-com boom, I mean, sure, you had companies that were, hardware companies like SanDisk going parabolic back then, Cisco's, the 3Coms, the Nortels, a lot of these companies are dead and buried. But I think what is so much different now, again, is this is so much more real. I mean, it isn't just someone adding .com to the end of their name and saying we're an internet business now. It's a company like SanDisk has those types of ridiculous earnings. It's a lot like NVIDIA. We talked about that all last year, where they're like, we can't produce enough of these chips to feed our suppliers. Everyone's standing, out there saying, give us more. And I think you're seeing the same thing with SanDisk. We need more storage. We need more memory. What can you guys produce? We'll buy it.
All right, let's move on to another big name, a big name we're going to hear from next week. In fact, you're talking about Alphabet here. I know Alphabet is one of your top picks for the year, Tim. Are you still feeling good going into earnings?
Yeah. So, I need to apologize, Marley. I didn't have my bull mask back on the Halloween episode. Major fumble of last year. I let you down. But I still remember on the Halloween episode, Google was really my favorite kind of what I would call mainstream AI. It's not a startup. It's not something that, as much as I love Anthropic and Perplexity and some of these, I mean, they're not publicly traded. You can't buy them yet. Google was my favorite idea back then. And then you kind of look at their main competitor in this kind of enterprise space, in my opinion, was Microsoft. Microsoft fumbled the ball this week. I think that a lot of that money that came out of Microsoft the last couple of days is going to flow into Google and keep pushing it higher.
All right, KG. So as we look at the charts here for Alphabet, Google, what are you seeing?
Well, Marley, I was going to have a bearish take on SanDisk, but obviously the rug got a little pulled on that one. Look, for Google, this is actually a little bit of a more constructive stock. Obviously, we have seen this pullback pretty much this time last year, like all stocks for the most part of the market did. And now we have a primary move to the upside here. That trend line has been holding ever since this bull run actually did take place from 140. Now, what's nice about Google, or Alphabet, if you will, is that throughout this bull run, we actually have seen pretty decent bull flags, or basically consolidation patterns, before moving higher, moving and checking back on that trend line, or checking back to a key moving average before moving higher. Now, right now, you could make the case potentially setting up for a double top type of pattern here, maybe a hangman candle that does take place here today, which would actually be a little bit more of a reversal candle. But you get a little bit more confident that you actually have some structural area support. That 50-day moving average in yellow sitting at around $318 is going to be your first area of support. Be mindful, we do have a gap to the downside still. It's pretty far away from where we are at right now, around that 215 to 225-ish area. MACD not really doing much. RSI is actually making lower highs, so the price momentum is kind of moving to the downside. But at the end of the day, the primary trend is still to the upside here, and once again, the fundamentals have been able to align for Google at this point in time. So I would say bullish for the most part. You got to get a breakout above that 340 level and confirm that on high volume in order to make sure that this run continues. And if it does, I'm looking at 360 as the next area of resistance.
All right, and we're just below that 340 level you highlighted right now. We're at 338.23 for Alphabet. Your last pick here is one that had some big headlines recently. USA Rare Earth, the government has taken a stake in them. They're the latest company and a part of this reshoring effort to reduce some of our reliance on China. But they had some move to the downside. Higher today, they are up 3% and up 90% in the last month with that announcement tied in. But we did see a bit of a pullback as well.
First off, KG, I need to apologize. I heard you starting to flip kind of bearish on SanDisk, so I had my Claude bot hack into your Wi-Fi and shut it off. So I do apologize for that, but, just for future reference. Anyway, back to USAR. This was a stock that showed up last Friday on my one of the algos that I've built, using a lot of these AI tools. It kind of flagged just based on price action. So I bought it last Friday, and then we got that news of the government stake over the weekend, big gap up, but then I'm still kind of looking into it. Evidently, there was this Reuters piece that they keep editing real time that was very bearish, a lot of these rare earth plays. So a lot of people panicked out of USAR over the last couple of days. And now that stock is basically back to the same level it was last Friday. And, I shared this idea over the weekend. A lot of people were like, Tim, it's going to gap up huge. I missed it. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it was there Friday. So I kind of look at this right back to last Friday's levels, rare earths, government stake. I think you got a gift on that Reuters piece that pulled it right back to the same levels from last Friday.
All right, KG, as we take a look at USA Rare Earth, an interesting company. They're up 93% year to date. Last 12 months, 81. A lot of that move tied to this stake from the government here. But as you look at the technical setup, what does it look like?
Yeah, obviously it is pulling back, but it's pulling back to an area of support here. We did have that blow-off top that we had back around in October of last year, sitting at around $43.98. We did see a pullback, a basing out pattern for about a month and a half or so, trading between $18 to the upside, to the downside, $11.50. That has actually been a pretty key area of support. And then we started to see this move once again to the upside, hitting around that $31, $32 level. It's pulling back right now. This isn't a formal cup and handle because obviously we did not go back to those highs of $43, $44, or $44. But you could make the case that if it does come back to that 20-day moving average at around $19.75, maybe it does get a technical bounce. RSI kind of breaking down a tad bit. MACD kind of rolling over here a tad bit. I mean, technically speaking, once again, maybe coming back to those moving averages before getting really bulled up in these names. But at the end of the day, it does have some positive news catalysts over the last couple of months or so. And we'll see if this one actually does kind of fare out. I would just kind of caution MP Materials, LAC, once those announcements did hit around the U.S. government actually providing some involvement, those stocks haven't been trading at those highs ever since. So maybe this is one of those buy the rumor, sell the news type of an event. But 20-day moving average is the first key area of support for a technical bounce higher.
All right. Well, KG, thanks for that closer look and also for flagging some of the reaction we've seen from companies with similar investments there. I want to thank both of you, though, for being with us for Big Three today. Of course, Kevin Green and Tim Bohen, the Chief Technical Trainer at StocksToTrade.com.